everyone, and welcome to Another Bite, where we rewatch the most innovative and intriguing pitches from Shark Tank. I'm Jorie, and I'm joined by the jovial Jon.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Go Gadget water bottle. Can we say that? I think so. Well, much like the famous 80s Inspector, today's product has about 1,000 extensions. Will this all-day adventure flask be enough to snag a shark, or will it leave a bad taste in the shark's mouths? We'll find out after we pay some bills. Finding a service solution that helps you better connect with customers and keep them happy can feel impossible. Like trying to remember the name of that guy you met at a networking event. HubSpot's all-new Service Hub can help. Well, in the service solution part, at least. It brings service and success together in one powerful platform for the first time ever. With an AI-powered help desk and an AI chatbot that handles frontline tickets fast. Also, you can scale support and drive revenue and retention. Visit HubSpot.com/service so you can do more with your customers today. Today in the tank, we have Hibear Co. Hibear is brought to us by founder Mark. And Mark is asking for $150,000 for 5% in his business, which is a $3 million valuation. Now, the problem that Hibear is solving is that insulated bottles, they're not great for making your own beverages. What do you put in them, Jon? You put in maybe water. Maybe cold coffee.
No.
So the solution is Hibear, which is a versatile glass water bottle that makes coffee. It makes decanted wine. It helps you shake your cocktails. So essentially, it's like this insulated bottle that's a bit of like a go-go gadget because every bit of it can be reused to make different things because it comes with all of these different attachments, right? So it's got like a cocktail muddler, it's got a coffee cup attached to it. You can give your dog drinks from it, hopefully not that wine. Comes in 7 different colors. So thinking about Hibear and our pitch and our founder, initial thoughts of this water bottle.
Hibear? More like Buy Bear.
Ooh, burn, Jon. Okay, tell me more.
That's BYE, not BUY. Okay, just in case there's any confusion for the listeners out there. Buy Bear.
Hot. Okay. He says no go. Tell me more.
Look, there's riches in the niches, as they say, but it seems as though in order to buy this product, you have to just be rich. It's like $100 water bottle.
Yeah, it's
like
true.
It's
super
super expensive. And
he
was asked about this on the pitch. He was like, oh yeah, well, the next highest priced water bottle is
$59, I think.
It's like $60.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh dude, it's like a $40 step up. And he's like, yeah, but it's 10x the value. And the problem is I don't know if people are going to associate that 10x value into a $40 additional price. I'm really worried about that. And it just makes me concerned about it. And I think given his price point and what it costs to make the product, there's just not that much money left if he has to bring the price down, which I think he will have to bring the price down. So I'm worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also just worried generally about this feels like total nice to have, not must have from a water bottle perspective. Keeping water cold, I think falls much more into the I must have that.
Mm-hmm.
It's hot. I must have cold water. Whereas making a cold brew in your water bottle, it's kind of nice to have. Muddling a cocktail
muddler.
Definitely a nice to have. So I think the product itself is very innovative. I think it is actually, I think it looks very well done. I think it's really neat and cool. And it would be kind of cool to show off at a party, all the things it can do. But I don't actually think enough people will see those use cases being things they need to buy such that they would pay such a premium for the product. So I'm really worried about product market fit. And I'm really worried about his ability to monetize at the price point that he is charging. And I'm really worried about the cost of it and the margin implications if he has to bring the price down. And so those are my thoughts.
For those reasons,
I'm out.
Yeah. So, okay. I feel like at first he totally had me, right? He was like, I am a hiker. I hiked the Appalachian Trail. And when you're doing these long distance hikes, which I do think there's a market for, you need to make sure that your products go the extra mile, pun intended. And they actually have multi-purpose use cases because you need to be able to justify the weight. Okay, totally had me there. But then it was almost like the more features he kept pulling out of the water bottle, the more I was like, well, this feels a little bit like persona or like scope creep, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe granted, I'm not an Appalachian Trail hiker. I don't know how much of a problem not being able to do like
Muddling
pour
a cocktail
over
is.
or muddling a cocktail is
Yeah.
on long distance hikes. So then I was like, okay, so this is actually more for your average person, your day-to-day use cases. But even then, like, Jon, are you muddling cocktails in your personal water bottle at the end of the day? I think it's almost like he tried to put too many uses into one product where it's like, honestly, those are so different in terms of use cases. Why are we combining them? So I feel like it was sort of like a persona. Who is this for? I don't understand. Like, who is having all of these problems that has to have this specific use case? And I think he started off really well being like, hey, like campers, like the coffee thing totally made sense. Beyond that, he started to lose me.
Yeah. I think that's such an interesting way to frame it up, which is like, he produced a product that has 10x value.
Mm-hmm.
What if he produced a product that had 2x value, and instead of charging $100 for it, he charged $55 for it?
Because it only had 3 components.
Like, oh, now he's undercutting the most expensive option,
Mm-hmm.
and he's solving for one use case extremely well,
Mm-hmm.
which is probably like pour over coffee.
Right.
So he doesn't have to do like a market research report, but if he did some like polling of people,
Like, what do you
I think
need?
what he might find is there's some popularity of features and there's some willingness to pay that's
Mm-hmm.
associated with those additional features. Great water bottle. There's a baseline willingness to pay. That's actually kind of set by the market and the brand.
Mm-hmm.
There's some amount based on quality of water bottle that is the baseline that people charge for that thing. And if your brand's really good, you can charge a little bit more because you get the brand halo. And then you're like, the next feature is worth this amount as well.
Mm-hmm.
The next feature is worth this amount. And it kind of like builds you up to maybe what features are most important and what price point is the most important.
Yeah. And I mean, granted, he said that it only cost him like $15 to make. So he's working with pretty big margins.
Yeah, but that assumes he can charge $95, which I don't think he can charge
That's true.
$95. Let's just say he's charging $60.
Mm-hmm.
That's like 75% gross margin to start. And then after sales and marketing costs, he's paying $50 to acquire a customer.
Yeah.
So
So
then
I
he's
was
out.
going to ask because he mentioned that his cost per acquisition was like $50. And like, that's all of your margin at that
So then you're
point.
gone. You're wiped out.
For those reasons, he's out again.
You know, in a vote of confidence, maybe, is he seems like he is a very resilient and determined person,
Sure.
which is an underrated characteristic in entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
I mean, he's ex-military, first of all. Second of all, he's hiked the Appalachian Trail, which is
wild.
freaking hard.
Yeah.
The closest I've come to that is I read Bill Bryson's hilarious book on it.
You did it from your couch. Cool,
He's a
cool.
lot more resilient than me, and he's definitely a lot more persistent than me.
Fair.
And I will say, like, if you're going to bet on somebody to take a product that it doesn't make sense or, you know, I find all sorts of logical flaws with,
Mhm.
a persistent person like that increases the likelihood of success.
Probably gonna
So
get the job
he
done.
might just
Yeah.
find a way to muscle it
Mhm.
out and find a path to doing it because he believes in it so much. And if that happened, I mean, obviously kudos to him, but that's an X factor that's hard to predict.
Yeah. And he even mentions Yeti, and it feels like he looked at Yeti and was like, well, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start as like a really outdoor brand and I'm going to break into the market. But then he was like anticipating the population of the general market versus like really focusing on, as you said, doing a product really well. And then that just naturally, organically expanding. He was like already anticipating the cocktail users of the world. And it's like, you just got to start with cold brew.
He was looking at Yeti and he was like,
Mhm.
hold my beer, you know, hold my water
Yeah,
bottle.
exactly. I'm going to do it.
You're like,
Exactly.
do you do this? Do you do this? Do you do this? Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
And that's like his key differentiator.
yeah.
Okay. Another thing that we need to consider is the fact that we just had the whole like Stanley Cup virality moment. There's Yeti. I feel like this is also a really saturated market. And as you mentioned, it's really expensive,
Yeah.
right? It's like a $95 water bottle. So you've been brought on to solve this issue. You can't change the pricing though. What's your next marketing campaign? How do you think that they should solve for the awareness problem to potentially bring their cost per acquisition down?
I don't know. Maybe you like show a backyard barbecue and it's like, who brought the cocktails? And like, nobody brought the cocktails.
It's
And
like
like
a
the party
shaker.
gets sad. And then someone's like, I got the Hibear. And they're like, chick, 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 chick. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. So you think that he should actually really focus on like your general consumer then? So you're like, forget the campers of the world. Just go into the backyard.
Well, step one, I would just tell them to focus on one,
Mhm.
pick one and go hard at it. You know, my worry about the campers of the world is like, is finding a pour over that fits on a water bottle that hard?
Mm.
And if that's the problem he wants to solve, should he actually just build a pour over device like that fits on all sorts of different water bottles? Like if you just go back to the core customer problem.
Okay, so we had a debate. You don't remember this. I remember this. A couple episodes ago, actually many episodes ago, where there was this beach chair. Do you remember this beach chair?
I remember the beach chair, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So your whole point of this beach chair being amazing is that they sold a really good core product and then they had all of these add-ons.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think actually the solution here would be maybe not having everything as a core component of the water bottle, but as add-ons so that people could like choose their own adventure, which you could also make fun and campy, and have like add-ons that are like specifically designed to lock into this one water bottle, but you're not going to get that with your Yeti or your Stanley. These things don't easily hook in.
I mean, if you took the most pure like business school MBA approach to this problem, you would look at each item in the system and you would do willingness to pay studies. You would look at the cost to manufacture each, and you would come up with a framework that allowed for basically decision-making on a couple things. Number one is which features to keep and which to drop. And number two, whether or not it was critical for this to be what you would call a vertically integrated system or an interoperable system. And a vertically integrated system means everything in the system only works with itself. So Apple's notorious for vertical integration. And this is why they're being sued over the Apple Watch only working with iOS, right? Because they're like, hey, we want it to work exceptionally well together. And there's willingness to pay in the value that people get from this vertical integration versus Android works with everything. And so it's interoperable. If the most expensive thing to manufacture is the actual water bottle and it has the lowest margins and is the most complex, then maybe he just makes accessories for water bottles for campers.
True.
You know, and it's like maybe those are super high margin because making a pour over cup with a variable base size that can fit on any water bottle costs like 93 cents to manufacture and you could sell it for $20. Like, you know, so I think that would be the most pure business school way to do it. The challenge with that is then you probably aren't building as much of a brand. Whereas like he's got his cool colors, he's got catchy name. I think Hibear is kind of a catchy name. So I think he's got some things going for him by making it part of the water bottle system that might benefit him.
Sure. But I feel like also that just translates the type of brand you're building, right? Because then he becomes a camping brand, not a water bottle brand that you take on the Appalachian Trail.
100%, which is, again, comes back to just like picking your use cases. And an MBA would have you do it based on what has the most potential for profitability, which may be a really good idea, but may also be a really bad idea.
True.
You know, a lot of MBAs, you don't often want to trust them with your brand. You know?
Take that to business school, you MBAers.
Now, if in the future I get a job offer to run brand for a company, I would like you to ignore what I just said about MBAs doing brand because I would be fantastic at it. I'd be great at it, but I'm a little different, you know.
Totally fair. Yeah, I mean, I was curious too because you are a leader at this company, at HubSpot specifically.
Yeah.
The biggest market for this product actually seems to be corporate sales. He mentions that like 40% comes from corporate sales. Do you think it's just because companies love it when they can put their own brand on well-made items? Or like, why do you think this is hitting so specifically in the corporate realm?
I don't know. So yeah, 40% of his revenues come from corporate sales. You'd have to understand why and how. Like it is possible that he actually has offered to corporations this product at, you know, 0% margin to him. You can stick logos on anything.
True. And companies love their water bottles.
Yeah. Company willingness to pay is both higher and also not higher because number one, I think employees are increasingly like skeptical of swag and they're like, do I really want this thing?
This third Yeti?
You know, and like at HubSpot, we give people often the option to opt out of getting swag. If we're going to do a swag drop, we give people the option to say, I don't want it. I don't want the environmental impact, whatever. And then the other thing there is just corporate budgets are just really tight.
Especially for $90 water bottles.
You know, it's like, yeah, $90. Like, I don't know. I get like a really nice Yeti for like $60. Like, why would I pay that extra money?
That makes sense.
Maybe.
You're skeptical. The sharks were skeptical. I don't think they really understood the vision of this and like how he was going to scale this. Also, it seems like he's got all the attachments he can possibly fit in a single water bottle already. So like, where do you go from here if you have all the functionality already built? Even functionality that maybe your consumers don't want. So the sharks started to go out one by one. Emma thought it was too early. Robert just went out. Lori thinks that there's a lot of competition, which I agree with. I mean, we've just said Yeti a bunch of times. So she went out. So unfortunately, this founder did not walk away with a Shark Tank deal. Yeah. So all the sharks said bye, bear. Womp womp. Production for today's episode was brought to you by Arie Desormeaux. Editing comes from Robert Hartwig and support from Alfred Schulz. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or wherever you subscribe to the greatest podcasts ever. That does it for me. See you next week in the tank for another bite. Create Like the Greats, hosted by Ross Simmons, is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. Each episode hosts an in-depth analysis of some of the greatest creations and creators of all time, along with deep dive conversations on the creative process that went into building companies and brands. If you like learning about history or learning about the creative process, you'll like this podcast. Listen to Create Like the Greats wherever you get your podcasts.